So we already did our wild predictions for WWE, so now we have to do it for AEW. That's how the world works. And listen, when I did the WWE one, so many people commented going, well, that's a stupid prediction. That's the point. They're wild predictions. I'm not going to say there'll be an episode of Raw and there'll be an episode of SmackDown, because that'd be dull as dishwater. Now make sure you subscribe and make sure you leave me your crazy AEW predictions in the comments below. And here are mine. So we start with 10, and listen, I've kept this one a little bit obvious so we can all have fun and join the party. Darby Allen will become the AEW World Champion. Now, actually, I think this is a very, very big deal, because I could imagine the first time people laid eyes on Darby Allen, they wouldn't necessarily have gone, who's going to be World Champion material? But over the last 5 years or so, he has cemented himself as an AEW OG and just as somebody that you can get behind, and it's one of the huge reasons I'm glad that AEW exists. I'm not saying that he wouldn't have been able to go to WWE and become the champion there. Crazier things have happened, but the odds would have been stacked against him, and I think even he has said that he probably wouldn't have had a full-time job or words to that effect, or at least a contract like he does now, without the existence of All Elite Wrestling. And I think it's absolutely faboo, and I think we should try it. It doesn't mean it's going to work. It doesn't mean that it's not going to work. But given that we do have this Jon Moxley story ongoing at the moment, he should be the guy, and we should try somebody like that, especially given the aches and pains that AEW have been going through in 2024. Darby Allen is young. Darby Allen has a cool factor to him, and I could imagine that younger demographic that we're always going for can probably relate to him more than some other people on the roster. So he should be the guy to take down Jon Moxley. Jon Moxley should hold that belt for a long old time. Then we should try with everything we have, all the power in our fingertips, to see if it clicks. If it does click, I think it'll be a net positive, and if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. I would still like to see somebody like Darby Allen, who has busted his ass for professional wrestling, get his due. Again, this is one of those situations that I never thought was possible, especially if you went back to like 2016 mainstream professional wrestling, if we want to call it that. And it'll make me warm and fuzzy in my tum-tum, because I like it when good things happen to unexpected people. And number 9 is kind of similar, but I thought, well, if we do one for the men's, we should do one for the women's, and Willow Nightingale will become the world champion over there as well. I wouldn't have even had her anywhere near this title until she was ready to be the champion. And I hope as well, you know what, we'll tie in this wild prediction too. I hope that we build the entire division around her, because she's a white meat babyface, man. She's like a 1980s good guy. It's so difficult to make these kind of a people. It's why there was that story the other day. The WWE are super duper happy with Cody Rhodes. He's John Cena, he's Hulk Hogan, he's Bruno Sammartino. Sometimes you don't have all of that. Like, to me, the most successful top guy ever in WWE was Stone Cold Steve Austin. He wasn't that. He wasn't that at all. Neither was The Rock. And the problem with John Cena, as successful and awesome as he was, is 50% of the people loved him and 50% of the people hated it. Again, we tried with Roman Reigns. That didn't take either. So now that we are doing it with Cody Rhodes, it's what we should be doing with Willow Nightingale. Like, it just is. She's so likable. She's so happy. She has a positive outset. She's awesome in the ring. She has an edge to her, not Adam Copeland, which we've seen in the street fights. And you just want to see her do well. It's that innate feeling that you do have once again in that tum-tum when you see her go, please win. So I really think she should not only become the champion, but we should give her a mega push in 2025 and see where we end up at the end of it. Sounds good to me. And I think if we don't try that, we really are dropping the ball, because sometimes people just get over organically. That is the story with Willow, so you've got to try her in the top spot. And we'll continue to throw world champions into the mix, because this is another one that popped in my brain, and I was like, well, it's not a massively wild prediction, but I also think it could be quite hard to squeeze him in, just because AEW doesn't book lots of world champions, and nor should they. Will Ospreay will also get in there. Now, this is interesting, because it means we go Jon Moxley to Darby Allen in my prediction world. And then do we go Will Ospreay from Darby? Is Will Ospreay going to turn heel? I don't think you should do that unless that's what the crowd are wanting, but I can't see that happening. So it means it has to be somebody else in the middle. So this is just like an extra wild thing. I mean, it doesn't actually... You know what? I'll throw it in there anyway as I cut myself off, because number 7 is going to kind of contradict myself. But we're meant to be crazy here. Maybe it's Christian that beats Darby, and then Christian can lose to Will Ospreay. Maybe Christian holds on to that contract for like 7-8 months. I mean, why the hell not, right? Sometimes we're so desperate to pull the trigger on these things, we just dive in. Why can't we go the other way? Why can't Christian hold his world contract guaranteed shot until 2079? Don't do that. Hold it till 2025. And then Will Ospreay can beat him. And given what I have at number 7, which I will bring into the conversation now, and that it is Christian Cage, who could be one of the best heels ever, and I mean that, and also the way he looks at wrestling, I think he could make this work. But yes, moving forward, I do think Adam Copeland will return to AEW, and we will finally get to the whole Christian Cage, Adam Copeland tag team, which is just going to be one of the best things ever. I'm not going to be able to handle it from a nostalgia point of view, especially because when you go through their careers, they tagged for about a minute compared to everything else they did But that's not the point. They left us with wonderful memories, and we want to see them again in 2025. And maybe that's what happens. Christian Cage cashes in that title. He beats Darby Allen. He only holds it for a week. Again, he has the character and the mindset to get away with that. And then it's Adam Copeland, Edge, whatever the hell you want to call him, the Radar superstar, who comes back to help him. He then becomes a good guy. And it's a great way to draw a line under your heel run, right? You held a belt for 32 milliseconds. So I can see those two things happening. And if we have Will Ospreay as the champion, after we've had Darby as the champion, and then Christian Cage and Adam Copeland back in the tag team division, I think AEW is going to be doing okay. Number 6 as well, I think probably has to go down, if nothing else, to kind of recapture the feeling, as people like to say. Don't know why I turn into an old man. But the Elite will get back together, and that is the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, and Hangman Adam Page. It's going to be difficult. I think you have to do the tag match at some point, at least so that Kenny Omega can get revenge on the Young Bucks. But then at the same time, apparently the Young Bucks are going to come back in January and they're going to help Team AEW fight Team John Moxley or Team Death Riders, whatever you want to call it. But I just think eventually you are going to just have to move in this direction. I don't know. I don't even have that much to say about it. Just when I was making this list, I was like, well, Hangman needs a direction. Kenny's going to need direction when he comes back. I don't think they should be a unit like they were in 2019, 2020. I think they should be able to walk off in their own directions, but sort of fall back into that friendship as and when they need it. I just think maybe we've got too far away from what made AEW so special to begin with. And a huge part of that was this sort of team unit, being the elite guys, for lack of a better term. So it's going to be up in the air. You do have the contrast of, again, Team Death Riders, so you're going to have to get everybody on the same page. You could justify that with a well-told story, but you also see the Kenny Omega match, which maybe we do in New Japan. Maybe that's where you do the Young Bucks tag team match. So, I mean, it's a little bit convoluted, but they do work together. Then there's a winner, there's a loser. Then when they return to AEW, they have to deal with John Moxley and friends. I think that could work, and I think especially if you're an AEW fan, you're going to enjoy it. And obviously, it's really important to bring in new viewers, but we can't forget the hardcore fans either. I hate it when people go, oh, you just book it for the hardcore fans. You should book for the hardcore fans. They turn up every single week. Don't take them for granted. It's me. Number 5. When we start getting crazy, right? Because at the moment, the rumor is Bryan Danielson may need neck surgery, but I'm going to say in 2025, he has at least one match, you damn right. Now, I would love that to be against Will Ospreay, Kenny Omega, maybe even Eddie Kingston. Obviously, he'll be back next year too. And that's all I got to say about it. Like, I just do not think we are going to get through a calendar year without one Bryan Danielson match. It may be in December 2025 at Full Gear. Maybe it's a random Dynamite in October. Maybe somehow he's good to All In Texas and we pull the trigger there. But I think we're getting one, as long as he's healthy and happy. That's the most important thing. I don't want his neck getting any worse, but I'm putting it in there so that eventually I can fall back on this and say, hot damn, I did it. Aren't I a wonderful person? And obviously not, because the greatness of a human has nothing to do with coming up with a stupid list on YouTube. But he will have one match. If I was going to pick one, it would be Kenny Omega. If Kenny is good to go again next year, and we can have the Kenny Omega of old, or even a Kenny Omega that's 80% of the Kenny Omega of old, I'm going to be so happy. More on that soon. Number 4 is a nice one, and this is the one you can talk about in the comments. And I think I have predicted this before, but now I'll double down on 2025. Shane McMahon will make an appearance on Dynamite. I just think you should do it. Why the hell not, man? If we are living in a world where we need to spark as much interest as possible, just come up with a good way to tell that tale. Everyone's going, oh man, it'd be rubbish if Shane McMahon was in AEW. Not if he comes in with a really good angle and a really good narrative and a really good story. He's an interesting character. He doesn't take over the show and doesn't win world championships. If he actually becomes an asset to AEW Dynamite and the pay-per-views and however he is able to inject himself into that, well, that's great. I mean, it doesn't have to be in every single segment like I used to be on SmackDown. Remember that? On Ups and Downs, make sure you subscribe to What Culture Wrestling and me. We used to do the wiggle for no reason anytime Shane McMahon was mentioned. But I do think there is a portion of your audience, or maybe the audience you don't have, that would be so fascinated by this, like a car wreck. Like, well, we have to tune in. We have to see what's going to happen here. So I should just do it. And let's say it is a bust. Everybody will move on so fast. You draw a line under it. You forget about it. So much crud happens in wrestling all the time. And then we jump even forward a week and there's been a news story, or someone's left a company, or somebody's won a title. And no one's talking about the old thing because, again, there is just so much programming. So I would just throw the baby out with the bathwater. And if we do have an opportunity to do something that could be really interesting, let's do it. And let's believe and have the faith in our creative abilities that we know how to transpond it across to the audience. And that wasn't the right word at all. I don't know what I meant. Transpired? No, that's not the point. The thing is, I think you should be able to do this if you are running a company. Shane McMahon's a pretty famous name within wrestling. And I just want to be alive when somebody named McMahon appears in a wrestling company that's not called WWE. If you had told me that even 5 years ago, I would have thought you were totally nuts. That's why none of these are actually that wild, because it all happens eventually. Number 3, I like a lot, because I'm a loser, and that is Steve Borden's son, which I believe is called Steve. I think his name is Steve. So Steve Borden's son, Steve, debuts in AEW, and he is introduced by the legend, by the myth, Sting himself. I saw a photo with Sting the other day at a conference, or a Comic-Con, whatever you want to call it, and he's let his hair go grey, and he just looks like a happy, I'm going to say elderly gentleman, doesn't look old at all, but just like a happy man. And it made me happy because I love Sting. And again, given he's like 63, does not look 63. Man defies age. But he'll come back, he will be Sting, and he introduces his son, Sting Jr. Don't call him Sting Jr., that would be awesome. Call him Stung. Stang. That's what we want to call him. Call him Stang. And listen, man, if we do that, all the best to him. I hope he flies. I hope he can continue on the legacy. I hope he understands that it's a lot to live up to, but he has the confidence to do it. I just think that sometimes characters are larger than life. And if you can figure out a way to connect that up to a modern day audience, it's going to work. It's also, obviously, again, there's so much pressure because he's living legend. Sting's one of the best to ever do it. But I don't think, it's like Ric Flair, David Flair, right? Ric Flair's son. He was never going to be as good as Ric Flair, but he was also a little bit of a bust. I don't think that always has to be the option. I think you can come in as a son of a legend and just find your place in this crazy world. So maybe you're not a world champion. Maybe you're not an all-timer. Maybe you're not even a Hall of Famer, but you're good week to week. You have good stories, good characters, good moves, and you can put on a good match. So all the best to that guy. I know he is training with FTR, and I believe Edge as well, Adam Copeland. And I would love to see it because I just love Sting. I miss Sting. So even if I get a little bit of Sting, and his name is Stang, I'm going to be stung. Number 2 is a totally random one, but Mercedes Moné to me is just a megastar, and I think she's great. I think she gets a hard time on the internet. And I was like, who could we actually get that would make us all pretty damn excited? Like, what kind of legendary women are out there that could be brought into AEW and do not have ties to WWE? Because originally I was going to say Trish Stratus, and I think that'd be so good doing Mercedes Moné versus Trish Stratus at All in Texas. I would feel like such a big deal. But I think Trish has 2 tighter links to WWE. And maybe the person I'm going to mention does too, but they don't seem to understand her worth. I mean, that's just me speculating, and I hope I'm totally wrong, because WWE should do. And that's why I've gone that over the next 12 months, or within 2025, we will see Mercedes Moné taking on Mickie James. Now, I would just love that, because again, Mickie James is so damn good, and she should be put on a higher pedestal than she is on, because she was like a super duper performer in an era where trying to be a super duper women's performer was hard, given how wrestling used to treat females. And obviously they have a past. I'm pretty sure Mercedes Moné said in an interview that Mickie James would be one of her dream opponents. If Mickie James is free, I mean, she did all that big run in TNA. I don't think she's there at the moment. Just get her in for a one-shot, man. Put it on a big old pay-per-view. And I think, once again, there's going to be a nostalgia factor to that, and you could bring more people back in. Mickie James doesn't need to win. Mickie James doesn't need to dominate the television. You just tell the story, you tie into the past, and you just let him have a really good match. And even now, Mickie James is pretty damn good, and I think Mercedes Moné is great. So I want to see this come together. So I thought, well, I am doing a predictions list. We will manifest it into existence. So I've said it now. And again, I have no rhyme or reason to it. There's no evidence. It's pure speculation. But that's why we go back to the title. It's totally wild. And number 1 does tie into the return of Kenneth Omega, who, I mean, I guess is going to be on the first weekend of January New Japan shows, maybe even both of them, which means either before or after. He'll be back in AEW too. And as I have it written down here, he is going to have the best AEW run of his career. Now, it probably can't live up to the New Japan run, and that's because he's only a human being. And he can't rewind the clock after having diverticulitis and almost dying. So I think, unless you were some weird alien person, you're not going to get there. You just can't do it. It's humanly impossible, and nor do I expect him to do it. I want him to take care of himself. And while he has had a terrific time in AEW, I think sometimes people poo-poo it for no reason, there is a distinct difference between what he has done in New Japan and what he has done in AEW. And I think he's going to march back into 2025 work, and he's just going to go crazy. He's going to feel like the biggest star in the company, and he is going to have, I mean, he's having bangers with everyone anyway, but he's going to have that magic and that allure. Like, he was on that New Japan show a couple of weeks ago as I'm recording this. Just like, man, Kenny Omega, I just want to see you go, man. I just want to tune into the TV to watch you, and that is what he's going to wrap up in a nice, neat little package and just paste it all across AEW. Think of the amount of people he can have good matches matches that are there. I mean, we can go back to the Will Ospreay thing. We can do Okada in a flipping AEW ring. I mean, there's the Young Bucks still. Obviously, we talked about that earlier. He can do something with Hangman and Page. John Mox is a heel, so you go back to that feud. I'll take him and Pac every single day of the week. There's Takeshita now. Have we ever seen that? Probably, but I don't remember. I would take more stuff with MJF. We could keep doing this until the cows come home. I'd love to see Kenny Omega versus Bobby Lashley or Shelton Benjamin. Oh my gosh, Shelton Benjamin versus Kenny Omega. So I think all of this is going to be on the table, and all of it is going to be pure fire. Hell, man, give me Kenny Omega versus Lio Rush. Give me Kenny Omega versus Max Caster. Give me Kenny Omega versus Anthony Bowens. Just keep throwing these out there, and when we get to the end of 2005, we will look at him and just say, even if you don't think this already, and you should, by the way, but we will all look at him and go, damn it, Omega, you were one of the best and most original wrestlers of all time. Now, of course, I need your crazy AEW predictions, so make sure you drop me a comment below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe, and please turn on all the notifications, including on the mobile app. Otherwise, you can go to GorillaMind.com/Simon. Simon, get 10% off. Given the lay of the land at the moment, so if you are watching this very early on, every single dollar you put into Gorilla Mind at the moment gives you one entry into a competition to win a damn Corvette or $100,000. So it's a pretty good time to buy Gorilla Mind, and you support me as well. And I use these supplements. I have my brand new Gorilla Mind fridge down there. I'll do a video on it soon. Otherwise, go to a GoGo Fitness, just code Simon20 to get money off that too. Patreon.com/Simon316. I'm Simon316 on all social media. Simon J. Miller on TikTok, Simon on Cameo. I'm on that B Sky social thing. Just search my name and you'll find me. And brand new ProWrestlingTees.com/Simon Miller, including my People's Protest Champion top. I've given the game away about what the gimmick is going to be, but who the hell cares? Thank you, my friends, and goodbye.